This time I'd like to present this, the Star Trek Deep Space Nine Technical Manual, which came out in 1998 from Pocket Books. Now this is very much a sequel to the Star Trek Next Generation Technical Manual, fairly obviously. But where that book covered the absolute core, how communications work, how transporters work, etc., they couldn't repeat all that. So they found themselves having to look for more things to cover. So they've obviously got an alien station, they want to cover that. And there's updates to how various things work, because we've obviously had a lot more episodes of Star Trek and many more examples of how things worked in odd cases. Now, something I discovered when researching this book in preparation for making this video was this book never made a profit. Now, to a certain degree, it's far more colour plates throughout, it's very nicely presented, which might account for some of the cost. But I'm guessing it just didn't sell as much, because Deep Space Nine was a bit more of a niche show, even though it's personally my favourites of the Star Treks. And it was the fact that the sales for this was so low, which is why there isn't a Star Trek Voyager technical manual. Which is kind of sad, because there were lots of technology updates in that show as well, and it'd been nice to have seen them documented out. So let's start with the back cover. Star Trek Deep Space Nine Technical Manual. Unlock the secrets of Terok Nor. It was once a battered Cardassian ore processing facility orbiting the planet Bajor, but Terok Nor took on new life when the Cardassians evacuated and were replaced by Starfleet personnel. With the discovery of the nearby stable wormhole connecting the Alpha Quadrant with the Gamma Quadrant, the newly christened base station Deep Space Nine became one of the most important installations in known space, filled with hundreds of schematic diagrams and illustrations. The Star Trek Deep Space Nine Technical Manual is essential for anyone interested in the ships, technology and weapons of Starfleet, and the many different species who frequent the stations, including the Klingons, Bajorans, Romulans, Cardassians and the Jem'Hadar. As an added bonus, four full-colour gatefolds have been specifically created for this book. In addition to providing an in-depth look at the experience of the station, these illustrations also show the Promenade and highlight the U.S.S. Defiant. Turning the ravaged outpost into a fully operational space station involved much more than a simple name change. The transformation represented an arduous challenge to the Starfleet engineers who were required to merge two divergent technologies. How they achieved the feat, how the Federation helps the Bajoran government keep the station running smoothly, is revealed in the Star Trek Deep Space Nine Technical Manual. And inside, as I glimpsed through before, it is absolutely lovely. We've got colour plates, where a lot of the Next Generation book was black and white. We've got pretty much full colour throughout. So an introduction from Ira Stephen Bear, who's one of the producers of the show. Mention of Doug Drexler, who is a guy I absolutely adore. Follow on Facebook. Amazing behind-the-scenes photographs he constantly provides, even though he's been having some problems in his personal life. Author's introduction, starting off with Deep Space Nine. Strategic situation, Terok Nor to Deep Space Nine. So talking through what's happened. The local stellar neighbourhood. So we can see Cardassian and Bajor are fairly close. We've got the Badlands, the Bajor system, Operation Return. So we're jumping straight into one of the later seasons. Operation Return is where the Federation had been forced to retreat from Deep Space Nine, and they retook it. We've gone through that. The wormhole. We've got the ore processing plant, which I think is really only featured in one episode. I can't think of it popping up often. Wormhole and the Prophets, detailing the science behind the Bajoran gods. I always find that amusing that amongst all the religions in Star Trek, the Bajorans one is proven because they can actually get on a shuttlecraft and go and speak to their gods. Orb cases, how the orbs work, different uniforms there, technological assessment of the Cardassian Union, showing off their uniforms and symbols. Their fighters, the station overview, showing its scale compared to the Defiant and the Galaxy class. Starfleet support, which was available. Deep Space Nine reconstruction, Starfleet Corps of Engineers, the Work Bees. I really like the comical logos they've come up with. The Defiant one will be later. It's absolutely marvellous. So, station construction milestones and upgrades. So, talking about how it was built originally by the Cardassians, the Starfleet and Bajoran upgrades later. And then we go through it section by section. So the main skeletal structure with the lower core with the power reactor on it. External structural systems, including the hull plating. Internal structural systems showing how the corridors are laid out. Load-bearing bulkheads and the like. The station coordinate system. We've got the operations center. Its actual layout with the commander's office. We've gone to the science stations, detailing every part of it, showing off the screens. Now this is getting into details, I think, even beyond what we would normally see in the Next Generation Technical Manual. This is up to the Starfleet Technical Manual of the 70s, where they used set photographs and like to make everything exactly detailed. System diagnostics section. The computer cores. Isolinear storage systems and how they accessed or got Cardassian systems to interface with Starfleet. Different personal access devices, so basically tablet. Desktop and computer control. Security considerations. The fusion system structure and operation, going through the station section by section. Operations, utilities and auxiliary. Showing the layout of a docking port from the outside. How the airlocks are, these big cog-like devices. Again, showing the internal workings of a docking bay with the control gondola. So the small control room. The layout of one of the large cargo bays. Various labelling from cargoes you would get. Thruster packs to keep the station in place, or as they use it very early in the series, to move it. Tractor beams. The replicator systems. We cover the communication, so interstation communications. Translator implants for the Ferengi built into their ear, going through the different communicators, how Bajoran, Klingon, Romulan ones all differ from the standard Federation. Ship-to-ship communications, going through all of this as well. Details the wormhole relay system, which was detailed in one particular episode where they spread a thread of particles through the wormhole to carry the signal, because normally they wouldn't allow that. The particles keep the wormhole open a very so slight amount to allow signals to go through. We've got transporter systems, talking how the Cardassian systems are slightly different and had to be upgraded because they weren't considered very safe to Federation standards. We've got sensors, including different probes, your standard Starfleet tricorders, the Bajoran versions and Cardassian versions. We've got tactical devices showing how elements of the station were converted into rotary phasers and micro-torpedo launchers, phaser bars. We go into torpedoes and upgrade to quantum torpedoes, which are used later on in the series. I believe they start using them during Next Gen, but very late on in the series. We've got the upgraded ones. So we've got the old phaser rifles as they used in early pieces of Next Gen, but the newer ones they introduced during the movies. Quantum torpedoes, which are far more sleek, of course. Holsters, Bajoran sidearms, Klingon sidearms, the different knives and swords of the Klingons, Cardassian weapons, Jem'Hadar ones. Go through the shields, including the shield emitters. Very obvious targets outside the station. Self-replicating mines, which were a large part of the series for stopping the Cardassians and Jem'Hadar, or Dominion rather, from going through the wormhole while they had control of the station. So we've got life support and environmental, gravity generations, personnel support systems, so how the medical facilities work, and then security facilities work. Odo's office, laying out everything. Beautiful detail. Replicators again, turbolift transport systems showing how they get around the station. Emergency operations, including fire support. Space hardware, so the lifeboats which are built into it. And the spacesuits, which again were introduced during First Contact movie. And that's us kind of finishing with Deep Space Nine. And we move on to the Defiant, which includes the absolutely gorgeous Assimilate This Defiant development logo. As I mentioned Doug Drexler earlier, because he was mentioned in the foreword, he released recently the prototype sketch for this, which was very, very nice. Included a panicking Borg cube running away. And we've got the original Pathfinder design for the Defiant, which looks like something out of the later section of the Starfleet, Next Gen Technical Manual, where they kind of showed what the next Enterprise might look like, which became the Nova class. Then we've got the layout of the Defiant itself. The Master Systems display. Again, lots of inside information here, because we've got the plaque. All I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. Here's the ship's quote for the Defiant. Go through the computer systems, warp propulsion, massive control impulse engines, comparing them to the size of a crew map, reaction thrusters, the science panel and all the screens, tactical systems showing off the pulse phasers, which apparently instead of just firing a beam, they create this layered beam, so shields will absorb the outside and maybe the next one, allowing it to punch through as it punches through various layers of your shielding. A torpedo launcher, which looks more like a rifle, even has a massive sort of sight on the top. Very odd. The bridge situation table, so somewhere they can have meetings and discuss situations. The transporters, auxiliary spacecraft, because the Defiant's so small, its shuttlecrafts are tiny little pods, but because it's a combat ship, even they've got guns on them. Type 10 shuttle pod, or shuttlecraft, the standard Starfleet life pods, and then we're on to the runabouts. I got it, the runabout development. These were introduced for Deep Space Nine, but used in Next Gen a certain amount. They're big shuttlecraft. Basically, this rear section is a module, so you can plug in the meeting room to allow people to be transported more carefully, or you can have cargo, laboratories, you can have weapons ones. We go around the stations of them, all the touch screens, the warp propulsion system, computer cores, how they pack all of this in. Then we've got the work bees, the tiny little vehicles. I think these were introduced way back in the Mr. Scott's Guide to the Enterprise. That's the first place I saw them. They're probably in one of the movies. Tiny little specks moving in the background. And then we've got strategic forces. So we go through what vessels are available to Starfleet, because we see a large number of starships. So we see Galaxy classes, obviously. We've got the Nebula classes, Excelsior, the Defiant, and the Akira class, which basically is Enterprise made more sleek and turned upside down from the Enterprise series. Although I think this came first. Miranda class, we've got the Norway class, Sabre class, a much smaller vessel. Intrepid Constitution class, so an Intrepid like Voyager, but with Constitution class nacelles just added. Because they detail out in here how, as the Dominion War kicked off, they needed as many ships as they could. So they just took partially completed vessels and bolted engines onto them. So we've got the Excelsior class variant, Constitution variant, where they've just bolted bits together. Another Excelsior variant, another Constitution variant, where it's only got single. The Intrepid class variant, where I really don't know all the bits on here. We seem to have guns here. I think it's the body of one of the fighters stuck to various parts of Voyager. Then we've got allied ships. We go on to what other forces are around. So Bajoran impulse ships, assault vessels, the Vorcha attack cruiser, which I did think was a lovely update to the Klingon ships. The Nekvar warship. I never quite liked that as much. It's a bit too in-your-face. The Brel class bird of prey and the Kavort class, because basically they're the same except one's bigger than the other. The Katinga class, the classic old Star Trek Klingon ship. We've got Cardassian freighters. Galor class. I don't think that is the Galor class. Kilden class, I think that is. That's the Galor class. I think that's mislabeled. Cardassian fighters, Jem'Hadar battle cruisers, Jem'Hadar attack cruisers, the Romulan Deredex class, and their shuttle. And then we've got pages of acknowledgements. And afterward, these walls are made of wood. And then, as mentioned earlier on, we've got various fold-out pages. So, general plans, elevation view of Deep Space Nine. What else are they giving us? A dorsal view of the station. And a nice fold-out of the Defiant. A cutaway side view showing the 4 decks of the ship. Detailing out some key areas. And side and front views. Very nice indeed. And then deck plans. Although these aren't terribly well laid out, they're not hugely understandable. But where the bridge is, where the transporter rooms are, briefly going through where everything is on the Defiant. And that's us. Some details about the authors. Now, it's a very nice book. As I said, it's presented a lot better than the Next Generation technical manual, but it is a bit light on information. There's lots of little bits which might be interesting, but it doesn't feel as core. So I can understand why this one sold less, even to collectors. But it is a sad thing, because I would have loved to have seen a Voyager one detailing out the different advances in technology. Perhaps Voyager and the Sovereign class Enterprise as Star Trek moved on. But anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough as usual. So thank you very much for watching. But as always, most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.